beautiful Nigerian. Come on, Fulham. Come on.
Hello and welcome to the That's So Craven podcast, your Fulham podcast from Down Under, and we are here today after the wonderful win on the weekend against Man United to discuss the Brighton game coming up. We have a special guest with us joining the That's So Craven team today. Before I get to Dave, we will intro the usual suspects. How are we going, Dad?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Good to be here. I'm still buzzing and just dreaming about what happened on the weekend. Yep. Can we not have a game for a couple of weeks? It's kind of like having a lottery ticket on the fridge that you don't check.
Can we just play Man United every week? I think we'd be walking home with 3 points. It'd be wonderful. How are we going, Sammy? Good to see you nice and early today in the sunlight.
I was doing good, but then I was accosted upon entry to this podcast, and it's made me violent and angry. But it's tempered with the fact that Dave's here, and Dave is my sunshine in and amongst my family members. So I'm very happy to be here, largely because of Dave.
Oh, very, very kind.
I mean, if you'd rocked up on time, there'd be no accosting, but we'll work on that. And a big welcome for the first time to Dave Wilson for joining the podcast. How are we going, Dave?
Yeah, really good. Thanks. Really excited to join you this morning, and love talking about Fulham. So yeah, let's get cracking.
Well, before we jump fully into talking about Brighton, it'd be great, Dave, if you can sort of give yourself an introduction. I've whipped up a little slide for those following along on the YouTube or the live stream who'll see that you've been in the Fulham media before, I guess, with a bit of FanZone action back in the day. Why don't you just walk us through your sort of Fulham story a little bit, how you started supporting the club and, you know, what you've done in the past and up until now?
Yeah, first of all, just on that picture, I don't know where you found that. That must have been in the archive somewhere because I haven't been able to find it. For good reason. The amount of hair on my head back then, it was obviously, my life must have been a lot easier back then, 10 years ago. We were quite an established Premier League team then, so that might explain something to do with it. But I started going to Fulham. I think my first game, I just had a quick look because I knew you were going to ask me that question. My first game was 8 years old, 1992, West Brom at home in Division 2. We drew 1-1. I went with my godfather. He's a big Fulham fan, and him and his son, who's one of my best pals, he took us to the game the first time. And but I wouldn't say we were hooked at that point. I mean, this was Division 2, 1-1 draw in September. I think it took until about 98, 99 when I first got my season ticket. It was a year we went up with Conroy scoring all the goals and Mickey Adams. Great times. And I remember we used to run around the Craven cottage, all the stands, and try and get the players' autographs and stuff like that. And that was a lot of fun back then. And then, I was a season ticket holder through all the Loftus Road days and then all the Premier League, the long spell that we had. And then I did drop out for a few years when I was at uni and just did away games, really. As you say, I did a bit of FanZone for Fulham. That's my kind of sole media appearance. I did about 3 or 4 FanZones back in the day, or when it was on Sky before they cancelled it, and for good reason, really. I can't imagine too many people were watching 2 fans instead of the game. But it was fun, and I guess I always love talking about Fulham. Don't get enough opportunity to do it, and my friends have been telling me for a while you should do something like this, and the opportunity came up. I couldn't resist, applying and talking to you guys.
And we'll have to get you back in that shirt as well at some point soon, just to recreate the moment.
Yeah,
if you've still got it. I think I've still got that shirt floating around somewhere in the back of the cupboard.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's get straight into it. The game this weekend against a very up and down Brighton side. I guess I'll throw to the floor and just get your thoughts on this Brighton team, because it's not the same Brighton team that I guess we're used to seeing. This Brighton team that's been flying high the last few years. They're still sitting quite high on the table, but performances haven't quite been there. Dave, I guess I'll throw to you first. Your thoughts on how this Brighton team have been going this season?
Well, yeah, it's another strong season. I think they're in a good spot in the table. Recently, obviously we'll get onto it, but form's been a bit patchy, probably to do with injuries. Obviously, they're doing a European campaign as well, and that can be tough when you're trying to balance both with the squad limitations. And but yeah, I think they'll be relatively happy with where they are and how things are going. But they'll want a strong finish, and they'll want to be pushing for another European spot, no doubt.
I'm a massive fan of Brighton, especially in the past couple of seasons. I think we've kind of touched on it already that this Brighton team isn't necessarily the Brighton team that we've seen over the past couple of seasons as well. But in any case, we have a weirdly good record against them. We've kind of become something of a bogey team. I'm borderline excited, and I'm sure it's going to be famous last words and something terrible will happen. But until then, I'm running off of Man United, and I'm going into a game with a team that we are a bogey team towards them. So this looks really, really great to me until it's not going to look great. And until then, I'm going to be pretty optimistic,
It's a weird situation, though. I mean, obviously, you don't get to be where they are on the table without having had a pretty good season, really, to this point. And then a little bit like the end of our last season, things have gone bad for them, and injury is a big part of that, obviously. But and I just wonder also if the stress and the stress of being in Europe and not being quite there and really quite having a deep enough squad is actually starting to tell on them. Maybe that's the reason behind their injuries as well. It's not as simple as picking up injuries in normal business. You push a squad too hard, and that's what happens.
Well, I think they did have quite a deep squad, but again, just the excessive demands has just kind of waned on them a little bit. And their big thing has been youth development, and it's always been done in quite a controlled way. And maybe that's kind of catching up with them a little bit, just entering into this new phase. It's a massive adjustment for any team to kind of go from a bottom half Premier League team to entering into that top six kind of realm. It's extremely competitive. It's really, really exhausting. And then that's excluding all the stuff that comes with European football anyway.
I think, there's a lot of the season left to run for this Brighton side. And I'm just looking at their fixtures for the rest of the year. They've got a pretty tough run in. After us, the only real games that they should be looking to get points from are Forest and Burnley, maybe Bournemouth. But they've got to play United, Newcastle, Villa, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool before the end of the season. So there could be some little spells there where they don't pick up any points, and they do start to tumble down the table, because it is relatively tight around where they're sitting in 7th at the moment on 39 points. If a few results go against them, they instantly drop from 7th to 10th this weekend, for example. And, if we win, we're only 4 points behind them all of a sudden, and they're in 10th and we're potentially in 11th. So they are, sitting basically in a European spot at the moment, because I think 7th now picks up the Conference League spot after the Carabao Cup on the weekend. But I think that maybe doesn't tell the full story of their season so far. And there's probably a few more twists and turns to come for them. They've picked up some good results, but inconsistency seems to be a bit of an issue for them. We'll look at their recent form, and again, the inconsistency sort of stands out here, where you see win, loss, win, draw, loss sort of all over the place, winning games that they should be winning against Palace and Sheffield United, but then drawing games with Everton and losing to a team like Wolves. For a team that is high up in the league, Dave, you'd probably expect a little more from them.
Yeah, I think that, of course, I've just remembered they only played last night as well in the FA Cup. They were actually in 3 tournaments up until yesterday. And with that injury list that they currently have, I think there's, it's quite clear they're going to be, finding things tough at the moment and maybe dreading actually the game on the weekend, considering we've had a full week off to recover and have had a really good result to bounce off. So I think they're going to be, their supporters will be coming into this game a little bit anxious and just probably hoping just to get a point to stop us kind of catching them and to stop a 2-game losing run. Quality, there's no doubt about that, and they'll still put out a side of Premier League quality and they'll still test us because they're a good side, possession based, and whereas we've recently got the better of them. I think we're unbeaten in the last 7 games, won 4 of them. We definitely are a bogey side for them, but they'll come here. They're a brave side. You've seen that they've gone away from home and won games this season, and Sheffield United 5-0 stands out on that list. So they'll come out and they'll come at us, but I think their supporters are quite happy with the draw from this, and I think we need to try and take advantage of that.
I think we should try and nick it in the last 3 minutes like we did last time, so they can whinge all the way back to the south coast.
This is it.
It'll be a Dharma Traore instead of Solomon this time, though. Flying down the wing and dinking it over the keeper or something ridiculous. Rabonas, all sorts.
It is a bit of for me, it's a bit of a cautionary tale, though, seriously, without sort of being too deep and meaningful about it. We always, when it starts going well, we start dreaming of Europe, not that we'll get to go on a European tour, but we, obviously everyone wants it because it's just that another dimension for the fan base. But it's a bit like, being a pub band wanting to play stadiums. If you haven't got the money behind you, it's always bound to be disastrous. It's really a big boys game, not well, it's simply because you need not just the numbers in the squad, but absolute quality and depth. So you really, truly can play the rotation game. It's it's very, very tough. Who pulls it off? Look at Palace; they've struggled.
I like the analogy of a pub band trying to play Wembley or an equivalent of that. I think it actually is good because I think you are actually right in the sense that if you have a lot of money, you can get skyrocketed there if you have just something amazing happen to you, like Newcastle and Manchester City are the best examples of that. But for teams like Brighton, who have to be meticulous and who have to be really, really clever and really, really smart, hey, Oasis can get to Wembley through great marketing and doing all kinds of tricky little things and working that system, but it takes a massive, massive toll on the club. And I'm very happy to reap the benefits of that and kick their ass,
Yeah. I would say particularly, I've noticed after the last few games, they've become very frustrated with the fact that, we've got an unbeaten run against them. And, we've had a few results where we've, as you say, we've smashed and grabbed at their ground. And I noticed on, just looking at social media, their fans are getting very upset about this situation. And I expect we'll sense a little bit of that angst at the weekend from their end. And I suspect they'll be trying to get on the referees' back to try and get some decisions their way. And it's getting a bit fiery, this encounter, and I'm really excited about it, actually.
It's a weird one to be fiery because you wouldn't expect Fulham versus Brighton to be an overly fiery encounter, but it really does seem to have picked up something in the last few years. I think it is because of that run where, I'm thinking the Solomon goal, the Polina goal on the turn in the pouring rain. Was that the start of this season? I think it was. It just yeah, it's I can understand why it would be getting on your nerves, because thinking about it, it almost feels like we maybe shouldn't be unbeaten against them in the league, but we kind of are. They can't get it over on us in the Premier League, even though they're constantly sitting comfortably above us in the league. We seem to be that bogey team for them, and I love it. It's a great place to be, because the players would 100% feel that going into the game. They'd be going, geez, this is the team we can never seem to beat. And one thing I do want to touch on is, we are without Polina this weekend, and I did see a stat that Fulham are unbeaten when Polina's not been in the team this season, which is kind of crazy to consider. We were sort of falling over ourselves at the thought of him potentially leaving us and how he's such a key player for us. But the fact of the matter is, this season at least, we've managed to actually deal without him. And I would be nervous going into this Brighton game usually without someone like Polina, who always seems to have an impact when we play against Brighton. But do we think, based on the way that Lukic played, especially against Man United, do you think we're going to see Lukic and Reed start again? Or do you think maybe we might see the return of Tom Cairney to the side, just because of the way that we had to play against Man United in a slightly more defensive fashion? Maybe we go on the front foot a bit more against Brighton.
For me, I want to see the Lukic and Reed combination again, for one very specific reason, that they just have so much to prove at the moment. They are so animalistic. They're kind of perfect for each other in the sense that they are really fighting to stay in the squad, and they kind of have a perfect kind of camaraderie just based off of that, because they're turning to each other every single game, in my imagination. I don't know if they're actually doing this, but they're turning to each other each game and going, oi, we need to front up, because we're probably not going to get as many opportunities while people like Polina are out. And so I really like that energy. I like that addition in the squad. I mean, it's akin to somebody like Muniz coming in and battling with Vinicius for that top spot. It creates a good energy. It's healthy competition, and we as fans benefit from that. And no, I want to see it. I want to see the boys go to war again, because it was awesome last time.
I mean, you're talking to a big Tom Cairney fan here, and
that's
most weeks he gets in my team. But I think I'm kind of with you, Tim. I think from Marco's perspective, he doesn't really like to change a winning team too often. And Lukic Reed obviously had a fantastic game last week. You've also got the fact that Brighton are a bit more of a possession side. So, two destroyers in there, that double kind of pivot might be more suited to this game. And I suspect that might be where Marco goes. But obviously introducing Cairney late on can have such an impact too. Whether we're winning or losing, he provides, he can really kind of come in and do a great job for us. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think it probably will be Lukic and Reed, but of course, Marco normally puts Cairney in at home, or when I say normally, since about November time when he really broke back into the side. He's usually played most of the home games, but I have a feeling that you're right, and this week he might stick with Reed and Lukic just because of the performance on Saturday.
It's a really interesting one, because I would say that in almost every instance, Marco backs a winning side, and he won't change it. He's not easily, his mind is not easily changed. But I wonder if Polina was available, if he'd actually be tempted to tinker with that. We're never going to know, because he's not. But I think he goes with momentum, and he gives Lukic a chance, because you think about it, if he can truly get Lukic fired up, that is a massive, massive win for us. Does Polina stay? Is he going to be part of the setup next year? Who knows? But even if he doesn't, what Polina did the other day, I think, has sort of surprised everyone. Obviously, he's got it in him. He's a quality footballer, but we haven't seen it. We absolutely haven't seen it. And he was an entirely changed man. I've never seen him charging through the middle like that. I know United gave us a lot of space in the middle, but he was a different beast, entirely different. And I'm sure Silva's thinking, if I can just give him the confidence to do that a second time, I've got a proper midfield here that really I can deploy based on requirements. And that'd be an incredible situation for us to be in.
Well, I'd probably keep it as is, just for the sake of it more than anything. I don't think we need to change it up. But I guess the other question out there is, does Willian find his way back into the team? I assume he just missed out last weekend because he had a bit of a muscle complaint, but it doesn't seem like anything overly serious. If Willian is fit and available, does he come back in? And if so, who misses out? Because I think everyone across the front line had a really good game against United. Really, I mean, if you had to give player ratings, no one really fell below like a 8.5, 9 throughout the whole game. Personally, for me, I don't know who you would drop, but when you've got someone like Pellegrini is a different story because he is obviously unavailable no matter what. But when I look at someone like Willian, who's been one of our best players this season, and especially recently seems to have struck some form and found some form, do you bring him and Kearney in together, who create so much together, and drop Reed, and then maybe you drop Pereira and play Iwobi central? I don't really know where that fits, but if Willian's available, I'd be struggling to leave him out of the side at the moment.
Yeah, no, I think a bit like Pellegrini when he's fit. I think when Willian's fit, if he is fully fit, he comes in. I think Marco values him as one of the top players in our side, and I think we know that Harry Wilson can do it off the bench as well, and make a massive impact. So I think that if he's fully fit, he will come back in for Harry Wilson, because we know that Iwobi can play right, and Marco's probably thinking back to those early December performances where we were winning every game 5-0, and we had Iwobi on the right, Willian on the left, Pereira in the middle, and he's probably thinking, is that my best team? And wants to start evolving back towards that now that everyone's fit and back from African nations. So I think Willian would play left. I think Iwobi would play right. I think the big question is centre mid. Marco's not going to drop Pereira. I mean, he's had lots of opportunities to do that, and he kind of splits opinion. His assist stats are actually remarkably good this year, but he can be a frustrating player. But I think Marco thinks he's a really important part of the side, and I really would be surprised if he was left out.
One thing we did not do in our last pod actually was talk about Pereira. We didn't mention him at all, which when I thought about it, it kind of surprised me. And we've been pretty hard on Pereira. And I actually think he had a really, really good game. I thought he was really good against Man United, better than he's been in many a week. And I just wonder whether I don't think he'll bench him. I think he needs Pereira to be in really great form. And if last week could be the start of something, I think he'll keep playing him. The other thing about Willian is we don't know the extent of his injury. And I think at 34, 35, if there's any question, I think he, even obviously if he's not medically fit, he doesn't even make the bench. But if it was a fairly tough injury and he's recovered well, but it was a difficult injury, I think he doesn't start. The point about that, and Willian is beyond question my favourite player, so I'd always be trying to find a reason and a spot for him. But I'm not convinced he does that well off the bench. I think I think he's better with more time to grow into the game and have an influence. I think I'm not sure if it's his age or if that just doesn't suit him. It's not for every man to be able to do that. And I don't think we get the best out of him if we do have him on the bench. So, yeah.
No,
Lucky I don't get paid the big bucks.
I completely agree. I mean, it's not actually that much of a debate for me because I have been singing the praise of Iwobi on the right since I saw it. It was a revelation the first time it came into my eye line. I just thought it was perfect, and it felt like that was a part of the squad that we were really, really missing. I mean, I'll go on record and say I love Andreas Pereira. I know some people are frustrated by him, but I like his composure. I mean, I don't think he necessarily needs to set the world alight absolutely every game, but I do think that there is a really healthy consistency to him actually in the squad. And he just knows how we play so well now. I think he's been very, very molded into the Silva system. And I really like Iwobi in there as well. And I also really actually like Tom Cairney actually coming into that role from a bit of an impact position as well. So I think there's lots of ways that the game can potentially go. I mean, I know it's probably not necessarily the best for conversation, but I've just got so much trust in Silva at the moment. And if the past couple of months is anything to base on, and we've said it a bunch on this podcast, I never know what Silva's going to do. And I will question it pretty much every time I see it. And he seems to be always right. And I know that's me through rose-colored glasses, but he just has a knack that I don't get, and that's why he makes more money than I do. That's the only reason why he makes more money than I do.
Maybe not.
I think there's a few more than that. Might be more than one reason, but one other thing to consider, which I hadn't considered, but I was just looking up our current injuries and the status of them. Harrison Reed is still having his condition assessed after his facial injury. There's a potential of maybe some late onset concussion there. We saw obviously Casemiro having to be substituted from that clash, and Harrison Reed, I don't know, he kind of looked like he had glazed eyes for the rest of the game, but played kind of like a robot with glazed eyes for the rest of the game and just threw himself around like no one's business, which I love, but there's a potential that he might actually miss out because of that injury, or maybe just be rested because of that injury, because he did take a pretty heavy hit to the head. So if that was the case, I think you would see Tom Cairney come back in, which for me would strengthen the argument to have Willian come back in the side if he's fit, because those two combining together with Robinson down the left, they've been doing incredible things this season, and they just seem to be on another level, that trio. And that's where I think we create a lot of our chances from. And the fact that Muniz is starting to understand what those guys are doing as well, seeing assists from Robinson, from Willian for Muniz up front, it just seems to be clicking really nicely down that left-hand side. So if there was the opportunity to bring that together, I'd be all for that, even though it does mess with a winning team.
So you actually touched on a really, really good point, Jack. If Reed actually is injured and if he's written out of this game, that kind of changes my opinion on it, because then obviously I definitely want Cairney to start, and I'm not 100% convinced if I actually want Sasa Lukic to start, because I don't know. I'm not entirely confident on his partnership with Cairney. It's specifically the partnership that he has with Reed I am very behind and I like. But yeah, if Reed's out, that kind of, I don't necessarily know what I want then. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, there's no one to replace Lukic in the middle.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I don't like it. I'm just saying I don't like it then.
Yeah, there's not been too many occasions where Lukic has partnered Cairney in centre mid. So, yeah, it's a good point. But we might be resigned to that if Reed doesn't make the squad, because there's just literally no one else that we could put in to cover. But,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But, I think it's just remarkable that the one person we're not even talking about in team selection now is Muniz. Just what a testament to how he's done over the last month.
Yeah,
I mean,
brilliant.
First name on the team sheet. It's just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah. Rightfully so.
I know. I couldn't be happy for him either. I mean, he just comes across in all the Fulham media as just such a good guy with a good attitude, and you see him playing with a smile on his face and really putting the effort in. And I actually, before he started this period of scoring and the appearances he's made, I thought he was actually, trying to occupy centre backs, win his headers, hold the ball up. But now just getting in the 6-yard box and getting on the end of stuff. I mean, have we actually found what we were missing? Is this, that's the big question, isn't it? Can he continue this form? It's unbelievable.
And everyone thinks that can't possibly be true. He cannot actually develop that quickly. But with every week, I mean, he didn't score last weekend, but geez, he looked good. And if he keeps doing that,
I tell you what, that turn and shot against the post.
Geez.
Yeah. No, tasty.
That was world class. You don't see, bit part strikers doing stuff like that, because if you do stuff like that, you start every single game. And to see a 23-year-old Brazilian doing it up front for us, and him hitting the post and having a bit of a wry smile afterwards, because he knows he absolutely sold that entire United defense in one little shimmy. It's exciting to see that kind of stuff. And I agree, it's been great, just this transformation from a bloke who couldn't even get into a championship side last year is now the savior of this Fulham striking lineup. It's brilliant to see.
Yeah,
it's like to tail off the point on Muniz. It's a really lovely thing about being a fan of a club like Fulham, because I feel like every season there is a cult hero as such. I mean, last season it was Vinicius, and this season it's Muniz, and it's such a lovely little B story, because you know what? It's realistically, it's probably finite, and it's probably not going to continue. And I would love to see him become Ronaldo with like the 9, as in Brazilian Ronaldo. I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to be at the birth of that. Whether it is going to happen or not, I'm not entirely sure. But you know what? Just it's one of the best parts about like supporting clubs like Fulham, because even if it's just one season, it's still awesome. And hopefully it's 3 or 4, but it's just so great, and I'm just so happy for him. I just love the guy. He's like, bless his little cunt socks. He's having the best time.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter. Someone said that he's gone from a waste of space to I hope we can hang on to this guy, long term, in the space of a month.
What I do want to talk about though is a little bit of Brighton news, and we've sort of touched on it a little bit. The fact that Brighton have so many players currently unavailable for this game, especially. For those on the live stream following along on YouTube as well, I'll just run through the list of injuries and also one suspension as well. Brighton missing Mitoma, March, Hinshelwood, João Pedro, Gilmore, Milner, Ferguson, Veltman, Lamptey. And look, these guys I wouldn't call them household names, but they're regular starters for Brighton. And I geeked out and spent a bit of time looking at some stats for basically how Brighton have been using these players through the season. The players who are unavailable for this game against Fulham have a combined 210 appearances this season, with 34 goals and 21 assists. Now, it's not like they're missing a handful of squad players and 1 or 2 starters. You look at these 9 players unavailable, you could pretty much put them in an 11, add a couple of players in, and if you saw that team playing for Brighton, you wouldn't be overly surprised. It's a big loss for them, and something that we should be really trying to take advantage of. Dave, your thoughts on how Fulham should be approaching this game, considering so many key Brighton players are unavailable?
Well, it's a huge opportunity, I think. We've got to try and take advantage of that. We've got to take advantage of the fact that they've played in the week. And I think that we'll be really positive because of the result that we've had. The players should be confident. They'll know that they'll have an inkling about this as well, that Brighton are depleted. And I just think I'm really positive about the game. I have a good feeling about it. I think that, if we can kind of just the performances that we've been putting in at home recently, even against Aston Villa, that, where I think we actually played okay, just mistakes cost us. I think that generally, if we can try and keep this form going and this level of performance going, then we should have nothing to fear, and we should be, getting 3 points here and pushing our way back up the table.
Yeah, I think we all totally agree with that.
I mean, if anything, I just want to actually, because I know these guys aren't household names by outside of football obsessed standards, but I mean, I would sign any of these guys if I was playing Football Manager. Like these are experienced Premier League players that actually really add a lot to squads. I mean, if you think of just somebody like James Milner, just for a really, really basic example, you could not have a more battle-seasoned Premier League player that can just add so much to a game for a developing player. And then you've got people like Mitoma in there who is just oozing class. And we've seen it 1,000 times, particularly at Fulham, how much the guys have benefited from having Willie in there and just having a touch of class, i.e. in like Kenny, or you know what, even in just Mitrovic in general. Blasphemy, I know. It's these players are players that can seriously elevate your team. And so I think without them, it is a serious blow for them, even if it doesn't necessarily, even if they're not the most sexy names in the world. It's a really big loss, and it puts us in a really tasty position to just continue the plague of Fulham against Brighton. I live for this. This is I'm very optimistic,
Yeah.
I honestly, I think the names themselves are interesting. Obviously, they're good players, they're Premier League players. But the biggest thing that mid-table teams, have to contend with is actually disruption. Fulham depends so much on having an informed team that's clicking, doing things well, everyone's combining really well. You take 2 or 3 players out and replace them with equally good players, you've actually disrupted your side. And at this level, it counts for a lot. And that's when mistakes do creep in, or you just don't seize on opportunities because, you just don't know where that guy's going to run. Yeah, you train with him. But if you're a Willian and Robinson, you know exactly where he's going to be. You don't even need to look there. You just put the ball there and he runs onto it, and you just cannot depend on that. And it's the disruption factor for me, not even the quality of player that comes in behind them, unless you're Man City. It's next level stuff.
Yeah, or apparently Liverpool, where you can just get 18-year-olds to just come out of nowhere and then win you a Carabao Cup.
Yeah,
I mean, for me, it's actually the goals that are the big key here that are going to be missing. João Pedro's got 19 for the season for Brighton. Evan Ferguson, I think he scored against us last time we played against him, and he's a class act. He's going to be a serious player one day. And they're missing those 2 players. And then I look at people like Mitoma, Gilmore, March behind them who've got the assists as well, and Milner to some extent, not quite as much. You're missing a lot of creativity from Mitoma, March and Gilmore. You're missing the finishing from João Pedro and Ferguson. You're kind of playing with a second string midfield and a second string attack. And, it's very much Vinicius up top with Reed and Lukic from last season. And then, Dan James out on the right and Anthony Knockout out on the left. And yes, you can get results sometimes and things can happen, but you're just, it's not the same level. And that's what we need to capitalize on, because this is a game where, probably a month or 2 ago, we're looking at it going, God, if we're lucky, we probably walk away with this with a point because Brighton are doing well. Now you look at it and go, this is a real opportunity to nick 3 points. And I remember seeing our run and thinking, this is a tough little run we've got coming up. But we've taken 3 points off United. We took 3 points off Bournemouth. There's a potential to take 3 points off Brighton here. And I remember thinking not that long ago that, geez, we might be sort of the 34-game mark before we hit that 40-point barrier. And now it's looking at, maybe we can hit there by the 29th, 30th game. And that last 8 games of the season is just all bonus, where we know we've hit that magical mark and we can really push on from there. And this feels like that sort of first step towards that next step, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's another reason why I'm confident about it is that, you know, what we 12 points from the relegation zone now, you know, we've really put ourselves in a good position by picking up 3 points at Old Trafford. It means that we can go to this game without we're not looking down, you know, we're looking up. And I think the team, you know, should take some confidence from that. And, you know, if we, as you say, if we had the same amount of injuries they had and we were going to their ground, I'd be very, very nervous. And I think if we can get a goal early in this game, we could get a comfortable result here. And that'd be great, just to, you know, send those Brighton fans back home with another defeat to moan about. Fantastic.
Well, we'll have a quick look at the table just while we're sort of discussing it a little bit. We do sit, like you said, 12 points clear of Luton, who are currently in 18th. Everton obviously picked up 6 points from 6 points. Picked up 4 points after their 10-point deduction got turned into a 6-point deduction. Although I do expect Everton and Nottingham Forest to both pick up 6-point deductions from here as well. Meaning really we're quite a long way away from any potential relegation battle. And I feel like basically the teams from sort of 15th downwards are in that battle now, and we're kind of clear of it, even though we haven't hit that point yet. I genuinely think 36 is probably enough this season, meaning that one more win and we're probably there. The one thing to say, we've got a bit of a tough run coming up after this. We've got to play Wolves next week, who are in pretty good form at the moment. We've got to play Spurs after that, who is always a tough game, even though that one's a home game for us. But after that, there's some winnable games. We play Sheffield United and Nottingham Forest back-to-back. That definitely feels like an opportunity to pick up a quick 6 points. And then it's a bit of a up and down run into the end of the season with West Ham, Liverpool, Palace, Brentford, Man City and Luton before the season's all done. So there's a bit more to come here. And I feel like we've said it so many times this season, but again, we feel like at a bit of a crossroads where get a win against Brighton and it really looks like we could potentially push and really hit into that top half, maybe look to get another 14 wins for the entirety of the season and equal the record from last season. Lose this game and then go on a bit of a poor run, and all of a sudden we're sort of clawing our way to that 40 points and just hoping we pick up points here and there before the end of the season. So it actually feels like a bit of a pivotal point for us, and I really hope that the team come out and show us the kind of form we saw against Man United, because that's taking on one of the, you know, long-standing best teams in world football, and teaching them a lesson at their home ground where they don't lose that often. Even though it's not the same Man United of 20 years ago, it's still a strong Man United team, man for man. They should be beating us every day of the week, and we showed them that we were by far the better team. So there's a lot to like.
This has been such a weird season, hasn't it? Because I feel that last season there was so much electricity, there was so much positivity. It was so great. There was so much going on. It was okay. So the example that I'm going to use was last season was like the first Avengers movie. We didn't know that that's what the world needed, and it was great. This kind of feels a bit like Age of Ultron. It's all right, and there's some good points to it. But overall, you're a bit like it's not going entirely to plan, but it's still kind of serviceable. And it seems like we're gonna get through it, and it's gonna be fine. But it's been so up and down. It's been it's been a bit of an emotional roller coaster. And last season was in a good way, and this season's just a bit weird. So I'm really looking forward to next season, when I hope that there's been a lot more consistency established. That's what I'm hoping, at least, anyway.
And a lot more money spent as well.
Yes. Bring on Infinity War.
Guys, before we sort of finish up, is there any other points you want to make on this Brighton game? It's one I'm personally really looking forward to, because I see this as an opportunity for potentially a sort of West Ham-esque win where we absolutely put them to the sword and they don't have an answer for us because we're flying and they're struggling.
My only point that I kind of want to make now, just to kind of seem like a better historian after the game's done, is we've been overwhelmingly positive and really, really confident. And I almost feel that we've kind of serendipitously set us up for a 3-0 loss. But that's just purely to make me seem really smart in about a week's time. But until that happens, I guess it's going to be good.
Yeah, the only one thing I wanted to mention was our favourite referee, Chris Kavanagh, is on VAR. So let's hope there's no decisions that need to be reviewed because, I think I know which way they'll go. So
maybe he'll like us a little bit more now that Mitro's not actually involved, though.
yeah, that's true. Or Polina for that matter. So our discipline should be a little better. Yeah, just hope we don't need to worry about VAR on Saturday.
That's a horrible thought. That is a horrible thought. Thanks for reminding us, Dave.
No worries.
Dad, anything from you before we wrap it up?
No, I think we've covered it. All I would say is that if you offered me this position 2 weeks ago, if you said to me, we will have beaten Man United away and done it beautifully in the 97th minute, and then we're facing a wounded Brighton at home, I'd be going, bring it on. We're the form team. They're crippled, and it's great opportunity to push on.
Fair call. And I think I'll throw out a little top tip for those following along at home. Try and win you a bit more money, Dad. Fulham to win 1-0 with Rodrigo Muniz being the goal scorer, paying 35-1. Definitely worth $10. Boost that account, and you'll be buying a private jet by the time we finished up this season.
Please gamble responsibly.
Guys, let's wrap it up there. Big thanks to you, especially Dave, for joining us. It's been great having you along, and we're looking forward to doing more of this with you in the future as well. So a massive thank you to you for joining on your first podcast.
No, thanks for having me. It's a nice position to be in, coming off the win against Man United and heading into a game against a depleted Brighton side. So feeling good and enjoyed it today.
Yeah, we'll pull you. Should have pulled you in straight after the Man City loss earlier this season. That would have been a very different story, a different energy in the room. No, cheers, Dave. Looking forward to the next time we have you on. Sammy, thanks for joining us this afternoon for you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very sweaty, but I've had a romp of a time. I'm directly following work, so I will pass out directly after this. And you know what? We beat Man United, so I'm just still running off of that. I don't care if it's been a week. I'm probably going to be, if we lose 3-0, I'm still going to say, I don't care. We beat Man United. So, looking forward to the weekend.
Let's hope we don't lose 3-0. But yeah, I agree. That one will live in the memory for a while. Dad, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I was just about to chime in and say, if we lose 3-0, I'm depressed. Make no mistake about it.
Exceptionally.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and great to have you on board, Dave.
Awesome. Well,
good to chat with you.
Thank you again to everyone who's listened along. Thank you to all who've joined in on the live stream. And as always, come on, you Whites.
Come on, you Whites.